Today we're going to take a look at a fresh batch of Mortal Chaos Warriors, and these are special because Be'lakor loves them. I know I'm late to this one, but my wife has been really ill, so I've been looking after kids and doing all the other stuff that needs to be done in the house, and I just haven't had time for really anything, including sleep. So if I ramble off into the distance talking absolute nonsense, then it'll be no different to normal, will it? Anyway, as they say, we've met the stars of the Heart of Gur box set, the Rotmire Creed and the Horns of Hashut. Have we? We have. I haven't done a video about it, but I have seen them. That's something that should be rectified. We'll sort that out either later today or tomorrow. We'll get round to it. But hot on the heels of the new box is going to be this new bunch, who are Be'lakor's favourite lads and lasses, Chaos Legionnaires, and a new many-armed ally in the form of the Centaurian Marshals. Which is technically a good name, because I'm assuming by that name it is a centaur. The only problem is that I just read that and I want to say Centurion, which I know is the whole point. I know it's going to be like a play on words thing, but I'm going to trip up on that. I'm going to trip up on that hardcore, and multiple times most likely. Now before we take a look at these, it's important to note that they are supposed to have the classic Chaos Undivided look, and that only the trained eye would be able to identify the various leering demon faces across their armour as subtle marks of allegiance to the Dark Master. So we're going to keep that in mind and see just how subtle these marks of allegiance are. Also, is there any point writing that Be'lakor has a plan, a nefarious and shadowy plan? Is that not pretty much all of what Be'lakor does, have nefarious and shadowy plans? Anyway, here they are, the Chaos Legionnaires. Got to remember, they are part of Be'lakor's gang, and I think it's fair to say that on the lad with the shield there, not all that much of a subtle mark denoting who he has loyalty to. I would suggest quite a significant mark there, showing allegiance to Be'lakor, which is, I don't know, I just like the idea that they've all got these little nods, and then there's this dude with a giant demon's face on his shield. Although then again, I suppose you could just have a demon's face on your shield if you are part of Chaos as a whole. Like, surely that's an okay decoration. No one's going to look at you and be like, "Oh, trying to be sneaky, are we?" I mean, surely it would just be like, "Well, yeah, that tracks. We have a whole thing with demons. I can see why you've gone for it." Although he does also have a smaller demon face on one of his shoulder pads, so maybe not. I do like his helmet. That's a cool helmet. The whole mohawk thing, couple of horns coming out. It looks like he's got a bunch of horns coming out of his back. I think they're just attached to the armour, but I mean, they might not be. They could well be coming out of him. It's always kind of difficult to tell with Chaos stuff, whether it's purely decoration or whether they are mutating and becoming something horrific and awful. I mean, either's fine, but you know, you can never 100% tell, I don't think. I do like the overall design of the armour. It is quite busy, but things like the buckles on the breastplate, it's almost like the breastplate has got like a leather thing over the top of it, or whether that is just leather armour on top, but then full metal greaves and lower half. The sword is absolutely brutal. I just keep looking at the sword. That is an ugly and horrendous looking weapon. In a good way. In a you don't want to get hit by that because it looks really bad sort of way. The other dude, spear's a little bit plain, but otherwise okay. He's got goat legs, so that's interesting. Little demon face on his knee pad there, and on his shoulder by the look of things, and on his helmet. I'm not sure that you can't call it subtle. I'm sorry, I'm making the call right now. We're only looking at two models, but I'm just going to say it. I don't think you can call this subtle branding. It's not quite Lord of Skulls level brand adherence, but they're not that far off so far. That's a really cool, what is that type of helm called? I always want to say like gladiator style helm, but I'm sure that's not the actual technical name, and I'm sure someone in the comments will know exactly what it's actually called. I do like the look of these. It's interesting because there's like an interesting mix of styles. They have got like super heavy armour for, like, the arms and shoulders are really heavily armoured. They've all got like decent helmets. A few of them have got like full like plate greaves and gauntlets and stuff. But there's also this kind of chainmail and like leather. Is it a surcoat? Is that what it's called? The bit that goes over the chainmail? I don't know. But they've got this kind of interesting mix of kind of armoured extremities, but the core is just chainmail and like this kind of leather garment over the top. But I quite like it. Like the metal studs, the buckles going across the chest. I quite like the way they've gone with these. They look interesting. They look different, but they are recognisably Chaos. But they don't just look like all the other Chaos stuff. We've also got a little demon head on the one side. That guy's got it on one of his... is it the van brace that goes over the forearm? And another one on the shoulder as well. In fact, I think that's actually a woman, isn't it? Either way, extremely angry. Very angry. Then again, you would be angry if you were forced to carry around a maul of that size. I mean, bloody hell. That's got to weigh a fair chunk, right? That is a meaty, beefy weapon. And those are two extremely ugly axes. I would not want to be hit with either of them, to be honest. I feel like that would be a bad end or start, or both, to the day. There are some really weird helmet designs going on. Stuff that I don't know that they've used that kind of design before, necessarily. Even more subtle nods to the demonic visage of Be'lakor there as well. Extremely subtle. And that guy's got, like, he's got cloth under like, the studded leather. So he hasn't even got chainmail underneath. But he does have, like, heavily armoured legs and arms and shoulders. He's got a full helm that covers the face as well. I am really liking that contrast. I don't really know why, but it's hitting the spot. These two look like actually pretty plain compared to the rest. They look very standard. The weapons aren't particularly out there. Two very normal, sensible looking shields, not too heavily decorated. So actually there are like, some of them are like really overcomplicated, some of them are not too bad, and then some are actually, I would suggest, pretty simple. They just look like bog standard infantry, which I quite like the contrast between that and your like squad leader there. I'm assuming squad leader, because he looks like ornamented and of higher rank. Just looks more visually impressive, more like noticeable overall, like definitely more complicated design wise. By contrast, these two are really quite simple, but it works well. It's a good separator. It's a good like indicator of status. I like that. There definitely seems to be like a complexity scale with this lot, where some of them are just far more complicated than others. It's a good looking unit overall, though. Yeah, there's some really nice armour, some really nice weapons. The studded leather it's really grown on me. It does look really cool, and I do like the detail of the chainmail hanging out underneath. I think that's a solid looking unit. I think they've done a decent job there. Now, along with those are the Centaurian. I knew I was going to do it. I called it super early on. I said right at the top that we were going to get that wrong, and then it happened, because of course it did. The Centaurian Marshals. So these are just mutants. It's just these mighty mutants oversee cells of Chaos Legionnaires within the Ever-Chosen's armies, and can join any Chaos Warband as an ally in games of Warcry. I mean, he definitely looks like he adds some brute force to things. I do like that helmet. The helmet's great. The horns are very reminiscent of Archaon's helmet, which obviously intentional, but I really like that. One of them being broken as well is a nice detail. I love a bit of asymmetry when it comes to horns on stuff. A broken horn, you can't beat a broken horn. That almost feels like it should be a euphemism for something, but I don't know what. Let's not dwell on that too much. The upper body of that thing is weird. It's super weird. So you've got chainmail going across the arms with like layers of armour over the top of the chainmail, but you've also, like on one side, which I guess is also quite like gladiator-esque, but you've also got it on the lower arm, and then the chainmail is attached to the strap that goes across the chest, by the look of things. I mean, from this angle, that's visually confusing. From this angle, it looks almost photoshopped on, but I'm sure that's because of like where it's been photographed from. I think get this lad on the old 360 spin that they've got on all the products on the website, but for some reason never do for promotional articles. I'm sure that would look way better from different angles. It does look a bit weird there, but again, I'm pretty sure that's all that's down to. He's really gone heavily for offense. I mean, we've got a spear, we've got a cudgel of some kind, and we've also got an axe, I guess. It looks like an axe, and a net. So not too bothered about protecting himself, no shield in sight, it's all about stabbing and bludgeoning people to death. And I can respect that, I can respect that. Overall, that is a beefy, chunky lad. He's got some girth. I like that a lot. It's a pretty solid mix of units, to be honest. I'm quite liking the way these are turning out. They look decent. I can't decide whether I like this fella more or like the kind of unit leader for the Chaos Legionnaires. I think it might be a tie, because they both look really good. Question is, which is your favourite? Which do you like more? Do you like the Chaos Legionnaires at all, in fact? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things. Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you would like. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.